Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're about to go over classes. There will be a list of all the characters at the end, so that way you know what characters are in what class, but we're going to give you the most detailed breakdown of all the classes in the game. Let's get into it. All right, guys, let's just get right into it, right? So the first thing is going to be the normal class. It's just default. There's no benefits, there's no downsides. It's just zeros all across the board. So the next ones, actually, I chose these two together, Dispo and Spopovich, because I want to show you guys something in a second. So this is the speed class. This is supposed to be a character that hits faster, and they all hit about the same, like Kakunza, Birder, and all of them. They hit about the same speed. I know a lot of people are going to say Birder's faster. Not really. So the reason Birder hits about the same speed as this one, Kakunza, it's just his animation's different. So one press with Birder does like 3 hits, so it makes him appear as if he's faster. But each button press is the same distance of time apart. So technically, they're the same speed. It's just you're getting multiple hits per hit. And some other thing, like that's actually a bad thing, guys, just so you guys know. Usually, the faster a character hits, the more chances and opportunities your opponent has to super counter. That's why I don't think flying kicks is very good anymore, because it's so easy to super counter because they have multiple windows that their super counter will hit. So the speed character, however, has negative almost everything. We are going to be having everything on the side for every single character class. So, you know, and we got these values from the raw data of the game. So that way, you know, they're 100% accurate. It literally was ripped straight from the game code. And the only thing we did is we made it more readable. So that way it's not code language. It's more like what we read. The combatives charge, if you're wondering about that, is how fast it takes them to charge up a smash attack. I would like to go over the combo attack multiplier real quick, or the combo attack stat. So essentially what it is the lower the number, the better for combo attack stat. And the reason is because you get penalties every time you change your attack. So if you go from a regular hit to a smash, or a regular hit to a rush chain, that is a change. And anytime, like for example, if we go regular hit, smash, back into a regular hit, that's 2 changes. So those are 2 penalties. The first 2 penalties are free. Everything after that accumulates 5% per penalty for damage reduction. So Dispo actually has advantage whenever it comes to this, because his penalties are negative. And what that does is it makes his penalties less than as if he was a power character. So that's something I would just like you guys to know. Less is better when it comes to the combo attack stat. Okay, as for power characters, they're going to be a little bit better than speed. I think speed's pretty bad, but like for power characters, you have your melee does more damage, your smash attacks do more damage. Your combo multiplier does it. It does penalize you more. So what I would do is, if you're doing these, do a lot of combo resets, so that way it resets the penalties over and over. Uh, I'll show you one for example. This is a really easy one. You just trip them, then slightly charge X, but you have to wait a second. Don't do it immediately. So for example, you trip, slightly charge X, trip. You see people do this all the time with the this right here. That's what that is. It's resetting the combo, and you could do that. But if you want to stand them up though, then you just wait, hit them like this, and then keep going with your combo. And it's an infinite combo. So you could just do that. You could do a long combo if you want, then do that to reset the penalties over and over. So that way it's not a big deal. So with power characters, they're really muscular. They're somewhat slower, and what happens is your melees increase, but your anything energy related. So this could be your blast. It could be key blast, charge key blast. You know, like what I said, supers, blasts, stuff like that. They do less damage, right? But you do have more defense against everything. So more defense, more melee. However, your anything energy related is down. let's go to the next one. Okay, so the next character is going to be Key Blast. I would like to note that the speed character is probably the worst characters in the game. Is the speed characters, just so you guys know, because it's like negative all stats. The second worst is probably the Key Blast characters, like this one. Um, just because it's mainly negative stats, like it's negative melee, it's negative defense, but you do get increased damage on Key Blast. But that's just not enough for me because you're gonna hit people with melee more than you do Key Blast. I mean, you might do a lot of Key Blast, but also the fact that you have lower defense really hurts. I used to believe that the Key Blast limit was infinite with these characters, but it's not. There is some delay between the key blasts. So they do this character does have a key blast limit of I think 4, but it is pretty quick though between the 4 hits. I was thinking that because Vegeta's also a key blast character. Key blast work is you get reduced melee, but you get improved key blast, and you get reduced defense. So, like honestly, the stats for these characters are pretty terrible. At the very end of the video, I'll make a list of every single character for each class in the game, so that way you guys know, so that way you can kind of view your own characters. However, sparkandzerometa.com will also show you guys as well. And we will update it so that way I'll have the list that you see on the screen. It will be on the website probably later on this week. So yeah, the next character is, so this is Ultimate Gohan. He is almighty, and honestly he's really, like, these almighty characters are pretty good. They have no crazy stat increases, but almost every stat increases except for pre-sparking gauge. And if you're wondering what pre-sparking gauge is, it's the sparking gauge before you actually reach sparking mode, if that makes sense. So that gauge right there, I don't think that's a big deal at all. So that's the only downside to Almighty, which is like not a big deal at all. So this character class is really good. It gets like 10% melee, 10% defense, and 10% key blast. It's like 10% everything almost. But we'll have all the stats on the side just in case, so that way I don't miss anything. Now we're going to go over the androids. The first two we're going to go over is the key drain androids. There's only 2 in the game. There's Dr. Gero, and then there is 19. Now 19 is the powered version, and Gero is the normal version. So essentially the normal character class with the key drain attributes. I'm pretty sure the other one is the power class with the key drain attributes as well, but we're also, we show everything, all the differences in the entire game code on the side as well, so that will help you guys out. So a lot of people think you have to use perception. If you look over here, perception actually drains my key. You don't need to do this in order to absorb key from somebody with these characters. You actually just need to hold the guard button in general. So if I show you Rush Key Blast, the only thing you need to do to drain key is to hit the guard button right before they hit you. The timing is pretty easy though. You can kind of rapidly tap it, but it gives you issues like that. So just time it. It's honestly like super easy to do. And even if you're a little late, it should be fine. Like the first couple will hit you, and then the rest will not. So that is the key drain aspect. There is going to be other stuff though that you guys are going to want to know about this character type. For example, one of the biggest things about this the key drain characters is that their key does not auto recover past the 2 bar. So if you see that right there. However, something you also should know about the key drain is look how fast it grows, right? So these characters can almost do things like discharge key blast infinitely because their key goes up so quickly on those last 2 bars. So that is something to know. Like it goes up way faster than the other androids. So key drain androids, meaning Dr. Gero and 19, will allow you to do things. Look at that you could do this infinitely for the entire game. We saw that in the tournament. So that's something to know. And even if I spam key, like I can almost do this like the whole game. So yeah, it's kind of broken for these two. You don't get any key after that. So after you see how I have 2 bars of key, and if you notice, it's not increasing past that, right? Like it just stays there. So like other androids, infinite key androids, they have a slower recharge rate, but it goes all the way to 5 bars. These two only go to the 2 bar, but it's extremely fast. Another thing with these androids is they get extra key when you punch, right? Like, so for example, let's go to 2 bars. Let's do 5 hits, and then we're going to do 5 more, and we'll do 5 more. So 15 hits essentially put them at, a full key bar. Now let's look at Goku, or this is a normal character. So that's 5. That's 10. Okay, so you see it's not even half. So it's technically 113% increase of key regeneration. So key drain androids also have the ability to grab to gain a lot of key. It is dependent on how much key your opponent have. So they only have 1.5 bars here, so I'll only get 1.5 bars, so on and so forth. But you get health and key, so that's really good with Android 19 and Jiro. Now, the difference is with 19, which I'll show it on the screen, but he's a power character, so he has all the benefits of Jiro. He has the grab, he can absorb Ki Blast, he can do all that, but he also has the power bonuses as well, so that gives him, higher defense, higher attack, and like I said, everything's on the side of the screen for you. Yeah, so that's the only differences between these two characters. That being said, 19 is definitely the better character just because of the stat buffs that he has. He's really strong. All right, guys, so we're going to go over the androids, the infinite androids now. So the main ones that we're going to be going over is going to be 17 and 16. And they're because these are the two different classes that you can find for throughout the characters. And just like Jiro and 19, it you have like a subcategory for the androids. Their classes is actually more resemblance to that than they are the androids. So, for example, this is a Ki Blast infinite key android. And what that means is if you look at the benefits of the Ki Blast class, and then you just add the infinite key class to it, like the differences, that's all it is. It's just it's essentially the Ki Blast class and add the infinite key android effect. So now, just so you guys know, the Ki Blast class, your melee is weaker. Your Ki Blast is stronger. Your defense, however, is weaker versus Ki, Supers, or Blast, whichever one you want to call them, and melee. So your defense is just down overall. Whereas I kind of like the other one a little better. So, for example, if you have Android 16 to go over, same thing, the key will regenerate all the way up. They do get a buff on gaining key when attacking as well. So that's kind of nice. But essentially, yeah, you have the Infinite Key Android, and this one is the power subcategory. So you have Infinite Key Android plus the power class, right? So you get the benefits of the Infinite Key, and then you have the power class as well. So with that, essentially, just a brief summary, which I'll put everything up on the screen, but a brief summary of the power class is it increases your melee, it decreases your Ki Blast damage, if I'm not mistaken, and it does more defense against everything. So I think this class is a little better. I know one gains skill points faster, and one allows you to charge faster. Now, charging doesn't really help you as an android, so the sparking charge does. So that's just something to note. So really, I guess you could say that the skill points is the only thing that really matters there. But yeah, other than that, that is the Infinite Key androids. They cannot key absorb though. So if you hit guard at the right time, they will not absorb. That being said, their grabs do not absorb key as well. That's for the key absorbing androids. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for those. All right, guys. Next up is the Super Saiyan class, and honestly, the Super Saiyan class is extremely strong. It's slightly better than I think it's slightly better than Almighty. So it's a very strong. We're getting into the better classes of the game. So you get increase. I think everything. I don't think there's any decreases on this at all. But instead of 10% increases, you actually get some 12% increases and stuff like that. So that is really nice with the Super Saiyans. They do. They're about slightly faster than average on their punch speed, which is nice, especially for priority. Not too fast, so it doesn't make it too easy for people to super counter, but and you usually don't get multiple hits per punch. But yeah, so it's actually it's pretty. It's definitely it's pretty nice. All right, so fusions. Fusion characters is now in the top 3 best classes in the game. And that's why you see so many fusions near the top of the leaderboards. But another thing that isn't on the side over here for fusions is every single fusion in the game gets max health, 5 bars of health. So that's something to note. And I guess if you incorporate that into the statistic, this would actually be the second best class in the game. But as for the bonuses they get from the class multipliers, it would be third best. 13% increase is almost all across the board, and like almost every single stat is increased on this character. So, and this is any fusion characters. So yeah, fusion class definitely highly recommended. Is really good. All right, guys, the next up is the God class, and the God class would be the second best class in the game if we're just talking about class multipliers. However, if the fusions, if you give them the fact that they give an entire extra health bar or half a health bar above the gods, then that would make them slightly better. However, the God class has a lot of defense, but it also has really good melee. So you're talking like 15% melee increase, 10% key blast increase, and 10% defense. Just really big buffs across the board. But yeah, I would say this would be the class that is in second place. Next up is the secret class. And the good thing about the secret class is you have increased melee damage and increased blasts. So, for example, your Kamehamehas, and you also get the increase for your rush blast too. So, for example, I think this is a rush. Yeah, this is considered a rush right here. So that would be a rush blast. So your blasts are increased damage and your melee is increased damage. It does help you with the charge times for your smash key blast and stuff like that. So still a really solid class, very powerful indeed, especially if you like blasts. If you like doing Kamehamehas and stuff, this class is definitely for you. All right, so the rival class is next, and it's a very basic class. So the only benefits it gets is from key blasts and from your regular melee, but not your smash attacks, just your regular melee. But yeah, other than that, that's really it for the rivals. They're one of the easiest classes for differences. I don't think this class is necessarily very good. It's not bad either, but it's not necessarily good. Okay, now we have the villain class. This is a pretty simple class as well. It is harder to gain ki by punching. They also punch a little slower, I believe. Another thing is their blasts do a lot of damage. So their rush blasts, not so much. So for example, if you do something like this, it doesn't do as much. However, your blasts and your ultimates do way more damage, 17.5% or something like that. So that this character is even better than secret characters whenever it comes to hitting people with blasts. So yet again, if you like blasts, villain is the way to go. Secret is the way to go. I do believe villain is slightly better. All right, guys. So this would probably be arguably the best class in the game. This is going to be your legendary Super Saiyan class. Are you tired of people hitting you with Ki Blast? Are you tired of people hitting you with melee? Well, these characters have armor. So, especially in DP battles, they're extremely strong because if people start hitting you, they will not flinch you, and you have a 35% melee buff, a 10% buff to all your key blasts, and that is insane. There is a 10% defense down, right? Like, so that's not so good. However, something you should know is whenever a character is hitting through your armor, so every hit that they touch you with that does not flinch your character, its damage is reduced by 10%. So every time, let's say if Z Goku hits me, it takes him until his last hit before he can actually stagger me. So it does default defense instead of negative 10%, because I get a negative 10%, but I get a positive 10% as well for every hit that they don't stagger me. So that's something to note about this class. Um, but yeah, guys, that's about it for Legendary Super Saiyan. I don't know what else. Usually these characters are on the slower side. So if you're hitting, so you can see how they're slow. That's actually a good thing though in this game, just for the fact of it's a lot harder to super counter them, but they pack a punch. All right, guys, so now we're on the giant class. I mean, besides the fact that you're a massive character, your health is going to be increased to max, essentially. So you're going to start out with 5 bars, like 4 health bars plus your red line. Also, don't get it fooled with the stat increases on the side of your screen, because there's one other huge element for this class that is unlike all the other classes. The raw stats of the character is heavily increased, meaning that this character doesn't go by the same base stats as the rest of the game. So, and I mean this for all giants, by the way. So it says that your Ki Blasts are weaker, and if you look here, one Ki Blast is 445 damage, so that's just not true. The reason they changed it is because you do less hits, right? So instead of 5 hits, this character only does 4. But you do the same amount of damage with your 4 hits that normal people do with 5. So therefore, if you look at one hit, it does a lot more damage than one hit from a normal character, because they have to hit 5 times. You only hit 4. You are weaker against blast. You also are a huge target, but your smashes are a lot stronger. They're 250% increased damage for smashes and 250% increased damage with throws. So those are going to be your bread and butter. With this character is going to be smashes, throws, and another really broken aspect is they changed the Z burst dash. Instead of going around you, if you just spam it, it just charges into them. So instead of going around your opponent, it just charges into them. It's unblockable, it's spammable. So yeah, especially with characters like this where you can go sparking. So you could just spam that all day. Anyways, so that is the Giants. Now the other 3 characters on our team, these are all skill users. There is a slight difference between Yajirobe and the rest of the skill users, right? So these are the skill users, and they're exactly what they say, right? They're only good at skills. So their melee is decreased, their Ki Blast is decreased, their blast attack power is decreased for ultimates and blasts. The only thing that there's 2 things that I guess that are good. The main thing is that they get skill points a lot faster. Now it says 50%, which is from the raw data of the game. However, it seems to me that it's closer to 30%, and I think that's because there's more formulas and stuff that's going on. But it's about 30%, not 50. And that's the increase of speed that gets. So the default character gets 4.2 skill points per minute. However, these characters get 5.5 per minute. So yeah, so that's the main difference. The other good thing about these characters is they have a 30% defense increase against blast. So if someone hits you with a blast or an ultimate, you'll have a 30% defense increase, which is actually pretty big. Other than that, that is it for the skill users for these two. This affects Mr. Satan and base form Master Roshi. But there is one more skill user in the game, and that is Yajirobe. And Yajirobe, he only has one difference from the other two, and his difference is the fact that he does not get the extra defense versus blast and ultimates. So he does not get the blast and ultimate defense like the other two. Other than that, guys, that wraps up all the classes. Let's go over and I'll give you guys a list of every single character that is in every single class in the game, so that way you guys can find the characters you like to play.